What happens when a federal judge openly challenges a Supreme Court justice's authority? The answer might shock you, and it's creating unprecedented tension in America's judicial system. In a stunning display of judicial pushback, U.S. District Judge Alison Burroughs delivered a sharp rebuke to Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch while ruling in favor of Harvard University against the Trump administration's financial pressure tactics this Wednesday. But here's where it gets controversial. She didn't just disagree with Gorsuch. She essentially accused him of being unfair and counterproductive. The explosive confrontation stems from Gorsuch's recent harsh criticism of lower court judges, whom he accused of deliberately defying Supreme Court precedent. In a scathing opinion from last month's National Institutes of Health versus American Public Health Association case, Gorsuch, joined by fellow Trump appointee Brett Kavanaugh, essentially told lower court judges to fall in line or face consequences. Lower court judges may sometimes disagree with this court's decisions, but they are never free to defy them, Gorsuch wrote with obvious frustration, suggesting that the Supreme Court's interventions in these cases should have been unnecessary. He went so far as to quote a 1982 ruling that warned of judicial anarchy if lower courts don't obey their superiors. But here's the part most people miss, and it's causing a seismic shift in how judges are responding to Supreme Court pressure. Instead of backing down like many expected, Judge Burroughs fired back in the most professional way possible, through a devastating footnote in her 84-page Harvard ruling. She acknowledged Gorsuch's position, but then delivered what legal experts are calling a masterclass in judicial diplomacy mixed with pointed criticism. The court is mindful of Justice Gorsuch's comments in his opinion in APHA and fully agrees that this court is not free to defy Supreme Court decisions, Burroughs wrote, seemingly agreeing before delivering the knockout punch. She then explained that the Supreme Court's recent emergency rulings on grant terminations have not been models of clarity and have left many issues unresolved. This is where the controversy really heats up. Burroughs, an Obama appointee, essentially argued that if the Supreme Court wants lower courts to follow their lead, they need to provide clearer guidance, instead of issuing confusing emergency orders that leave judges guessing. She wrote that it's unhelpful and unnecessary to criticize district courts for defying the Supreme Court when they are working to find the right answer in a rapidly evolving doctrinal landscape where they must grapple with both existing precedent and interim guidance from the Supreme Court that appears to set that precedent aside without much explanation or consensus. Translation for those not fluent in legal speak: Justice Gorsuch, if you want us to follow your rules, maybe try explaining them clearly first, instead of blaming us for your confusing instructions. But wait, there's an even more dramatic twist to this story that reveals just how deep this judicial divide runs. While Burroughs chose to stand her ground, another federal judge took the complete opposite approach, creating a stark contrast that's dividing legal observers. Reagan appointee William Young, who was the district judge in the original NIH case, publicly apologized to Gorsuch and Kavanaugh during a hearing this week, an almost unprecedented move that has some calling it either admirably humble or disturbingly subservient. Before we do anything, I really feel it's incumbent upon me to, on the record here, to apologize to Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh if they think that anything this court has done in defiance of a precedential action of the Supreme Court of the United States, Young reportedly said, according to the New York Times. Young went further, stating that he simply did not understand that orders on the emergency docket were precedent, essentially admitting confusion about the very issue Burroughs criticized the Supreme Court for not clarifying. And this is the part that should worry everyone, regardless of political affiliation. Burroughs isn't fighting this battle alone. According to a remarkable NBC News investigation published Thursday, a staggering 10 federal judges have gone on record, some anonymously, expressing frustration with the Supreme Court's failure to adequately explain their emergency rulings. The fact that federal judges are willing to speak out at all even without their names attached, reveals what legal experts are calling a dire state of the judiciary under Trump's second term. This judicial rebellion is happening at the same time that Biden appointee Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson has complained that her Supreme Court colleagues consistently find ways to side with the Trump administration, regardless of the legal merits. A claim that adds another layer of controversy to an already explosive situation. So what happens next? The Trump administration has promised to appeal Burroughs' Harvard ruling, which means this case could land right back on Gorsuch's desk. Will he double down on his criticism of lower court judges, or will he address the legitimate concerns about the Supreme Court's unclear emergency orders? Here's the question that's dividing legal experts and should spark serious debate. Is Judge Burroughs a hero standing up for judicial clarity and fairness? Or is she overstepping her bounds by publicly criticizing Supreme Court justices? And perhaps more importantly, when the highest court in the land issues confusing or contradictory guidance, should lower court judges apologize for not understanding, or should they demand better explanations? This case represents far more than a dispute between Harvard and the Trump administration. It's a fundamental clash over how America's judicial hierarchy should function and whether lower court judges have the right to expect clear guidance from their superiors before being accused of defiance. What do you think? Should federal judges like Burroughs continue pushing back against unclear Supreme Court directives, or should they follow Judge Young's example and apologize when there's confusion? Is this healthy judicial discourse or dangerous insubordination? The future of American justice might depend on how we answer these questions.